Chapter 3. Futue Fragrariam. So the review panel didn't go well.
I heard.
Dewey stubbed out a cigarette.
Everyone heard. It was all the talk on the bridge. Below decks as well, I expect.
She wrinkled her nose at Webb.
You smell like ammonia.
Webb shrugged an apology. Had to clean the arcade. Didn't leave time for a shower. She sniffed her armpit and winced. Her dress uniform would have to be laundered, and like every other service on the ship, that wasn't cheap. She didn't dare sit, even though it was just her and the chief. The moment she sat would be the moment they showed. She felt sticky, unbuttoned her collar. Don't know why I bothered getting dressed up.
It's one of the hoops, all part of the pageantry. So jump.
Webb wanted to sit. Why wasn't she sitting? It's not like it'd make a difference. I'm not getting the job, not after today. No one gets promoted out of the enlisted ranks.
Sivos did.
And the red shirts hate him for it.
The Armstrongs hate him.
Dewey lit up again.
For the unpardonable crime of getting promoted without kissing purple ass. They don't count. Have some tar.
She blew smoke into Webb's face. Webb inhaled. The aroma was acrid and sweet and took her back to her youth. Then her lungs kicked in and filtered out the nicotine. The letdown was similar to having a sneeze dissolve right before climax. God, I miss smoking.
Does the second hand help?
Not really. I appreciate it, though. I wouldn't mind sanding off the edge a bit.
You can sit, you know.
The moment I sit is the moment they show. She'd only just stopped pacing. I wish they'd get here. I just want this to be over with. Dewey pulled a couple of shots out of the cabinet.
Your lungs can't keep you from drinking.
Webb scoffed. Great plan, Chief. Get blitzed at my own review when they're already pissed at me. Though the thought was tempting. She looked towards the door again. Worry curdled her stomach and sent ice through her veins. Do you think word got back to the captain? About how...
You basically accused him of negligence?
Webb shifted her weight. There wasn't really a basically.
He's guilty. He juiced the conduit early so he wouldn't Ralph on the ambassador. I was there.
Dewey's face tightened.
Xeno fucking horn dog.
I'm so bunked.
Don't worry. He's not even coming. He hasn't been feeling too hot. Something with his stomach. Serves him right, the festering throbcock. Would you sit down, please? Your tension's infectious.
Webb sat. Set her forehead on the table. Oh, I hate this.
I know.
Dewey patted her on the back and slid her a shot.
Drink.
I haven't eaten in 10 hours.
Fine. We'll go down to the horizon afterward and you can binge on protein. I just thought you'd want a pregame before we celebrate.
Webb slowly lifted her head. She found Dewey wearing a lopsided grin. Celebrate?
Oh, yeah. That is the word I used.
Chief. Webb's heart wanted to race. She held it back. Do you know something I don't? Another grin.
So many things.
Like
who's getting promoted today?
She raised her glass.
Congrats, techie.
Webb sat upright. No way.
I'm serious.
You've seen the order?
I signed it myself.
Her grin slipped.
This is my last trip. I've been considering it for a while, but after Chevalier, that cemented it.
She popped the top off her shot and threw it back.
Anyway, I've hit retirement age. You can't deny me my pension. And as much as I love you kids, I'm not sticking around this shit show any longer than I have to. I'm gonna head back to Yellowknife where I can still ride. Maybe teach my granddaughters how to tap dance. Uncoordinated little shit goblins. God damn, I miss them.
Webb could only gape. You're retiring?
Which means the Independence is gonna be in need of a new chief engineer. One who already knows this bird and has patched her up almost as many times as I have. There's only one tech who fits the bill. And she's not drinking her shot.
Different emotions fought for control of Webb's voice. She settled on an interrogative whimper.
It's one of those unwritten rules,
said Dewey.
Like, don't stick your junk in a teleporter. Chiefs get to pick their own replacements. Technically, it's just a recommendation, but it's a bone the brass is willing to throw. No one in purple wants to work that close with the crew anyway, and the red shirts need an upper-level advocate, and I can think of no one better. Close your mouth.
Webb clicked it shut. I'd be an officer?
Not an ensign. It's not that track. If I'm being honest, I don't know if you'll ever get to the bridge. and your shirt would still be red. But your badge would be gold, and you'd get your pips, along with everything else that comes with being an officer. I entered the recommendation this morning, and Young signed off for the captain."
Dewey raised her glass again.
"Congratulations, Joni."
"Holy bunking lord."
"Just act surprised."
"That won't be hard."
"Good. Now, you gonna drink with me or not?"
Webb didn't have time to open her shot before the door to the wardroom slid open. She jumped to her feet. In marched a cog, and an officer who made Webb's blood go cold. Dewey hit her surprise better.
"Lieutenant Commander."
She rose, chanced to glance around him towards the corridor.
"Is Commander Young on his way?"
"He has the bridge," said Blackwell. "I'll be presiding. Please, take a seat." He locked eyes on Webb. "You're out of uniform." Webb buttoned her collar, looked to Dewey for an explanation. "Is something wrong, technician?" Webb slipped the shot in her pocket. "Just a bit taken aback, sir. I can't say I was expecting you."
"Neither could I," said Dewey.
"A performance review with potential for promotion requires the presence of a senior, yes?" "It does indeed, sir." Webb should probably shut up. "It's just, you think I can't be impartial," he said flatly. "That I'd let your accusations from earlier affect my judgment. They won't. Officers don't have the luxury of allowing personal feelings to affect their duties." Dewey leaned in to point to his datapad.
"No judgment is necessary. See? The form right there."
"Your recommendation has been noted." He tapped some keys on the pad. "Senior Technician Joni Weber. 15 years, distinguished service, 9 unit commendations, 1 meritorious unit commendation. You will stand at attention." Webb stood straight as a rod. "Certified operations specialist, certified shuttle pilot, certified mechanical engineer with specializations in... Well, that's quite the list." "Thank you, sir. I see you've kept your sidearm certification up to date. Not that you need combat training in engineering. Crew representative twice elected, and stellar recommendations from your commanding officer. Impressive. Your promotion is denied." It felt quiet but for the creak of Blackwell reclining. Webb could almost hear herself deflate. Dewey stabbed a finger at the datapad.
"This has already been approved."
"Submitted for approval," corrected Blackwell. "Final say is the captain's."
"I choose my own replacement."
"Is that a regulation?" he asked innocently. "One that I'm not aware of."
"It's a norm," hissed Dewey. "Well known on the bridge."
"Source?" He offered her the datapad. "Show me the reg. I'm happy to be corrected." Dewey slammed it on the table.
"It's tradition, recognized on every ship in the fleet."
"Ships that are commanded by captains who make the ultimate decisions, I believe." But it was all Webb could manage, with her heart pounding and throat desert dry. Dewey glanced at her.
"Let me handle this."
Blackwell cocked his head. A smile played at his lips. "Something to add, technician?" "Sir, I am the most qualified candidate on the ship."
"She damn well is," said Dewey.
"I've logged more hours on duty than anyone but the chief. I'm proficient in every technical department. I trained the replacements, for God's sake." "Language." Blackwell steepled his fingers. "Your technical qualifications are impressive, there's no denying that. But we are simply not in the habit of promoting individuals who show no initiative." Webb and Dewey gawked in unison. The chief went red as her uniform.
"In what conceivable way?"
"In the time you've served, you've been on," he tapped at the pad, "a grand total of 3 away missions. The last of these was over a decade ago." His expression said checkmate. Webb hoped she came across confused rather than irritated. Away missions aren't required for promotion, but they are highly encouraged. "You're penalizing me for not volunteering?"
"I needed her in engineering,"
said Dewey.
"I'm going to risk losing my best hand to grunt work?"
Blackwell was not moved. "Red shirts volunteer all the time." "The Armstrongs do," said Webb, "but not for away missions. If there any level of danger involved, crew are assigned. There's no volunteering involved." "I certainly see none on your record." Blackwell set the pad aside. "You don't believe risking your skin, I get it. But you need to own that and its consequences." "Easy for you to say," Webb spat. "You're an officer." Blackwell darkened. "Meaning?" Dewey looked a warning at Webb. "Red shirts die on away missions," Webb blurted. "Officers always come back." Fuming, Dewey rose and tugged her uniform taut.
I'll be taking this up with the captain.
How you waste your time is your call, said Blackwell. Sir, said Webb, please. Every year I've served with distinction. The officer corps need people the crew trusts, and I'm the crew representative. Oh, I remember. I have a list of accolades as long as your arm. I've been here longer than half the officers. I know this ship inside out. I've worked in every little nook and rat hole, and I can navigate it with my eyes closed. I did it once on a dare. I've applied for this promotion every year with the same result, he cut in. You need to wake up, Miss Weber. You will never be an officer. Dismissed. Webb was trembling so much she almost didn't feel Dewey's hand on her shoulder.
This isn't over,
the chief lied. But it was, gone as quickly and completely as an early morning dream. Webb was so crestfallen she almost didn't hear her badge chime. Blackwell waited for the doors to his quarters to slide shut before letting out a sigh. For a precious handful of moments, his time was his own again. His quarters weren't large, but he'd grown accustomed to living under Spartan conditions. There was just enough room for his bed, his couch, the reading chair, his wardrobe, and a few art pieces. He'd converted the utility room into a personal gym. What entertaining was expected of him as an officer, he kept to his kitchen and dining room. Apart from the bathroom and its jacuzzi tub, that was all the personal space he was allotted. And it was all he needed. He was used to going without. The space in his sleeping quarters was a bit reduced due to the private hollow emitters he'd set up in its corners. Those weren't against regulation, but they weren't exactly common. Most officers could get by entertaining themselves in the arcade. Not Blackwell. His tastes ran towards the authentic, the more intimate, the more private, certainly. Unlike the arcades, all officers' quarters were teep-shielded. No one could teleport in unexpectedly. The Coalition had learned the need for that the hard way after the string of mutinies a generation past. Blackwell turned off his badge, peeled off his jacket, and gazed out the window, which offered an unobstructed view of the starboard nacelle and the shredded torpedo bay beneath. He let out another sigh. This one irritated. He'd have to crack the whip down in engineering. If the crew didn't want to work 100-hour weeks, they could get the work done on schedule. His view wasn't the most romantic on the ship, but it was private and it was practical, just the way his lady preferred. He checked to make sure the teep shields were up. He could feel his pulse quicken as he styled his hair and couldn't suppress his smile. Just thinking about her made him giddy. He placed himself at the foot of the bed. Indy, execute private program Blackwell 3, version 331, authorization code Blackwell, Jared, KNU-1664. The air shimmered. She appeared before his bed, kneeling in her silken kimono. She blinked as if she'd just awakened, looked into his face, and tightened her robe. Blackwell's heart leapt. Hello, sunshine. Did you miss me? She smiled, looked towards the window. Where are we now? Still at space, on our way to Amolnomax. He couldn't keep the distaste out of his voice. What other officers did with their own time was their own business, but paying for intimacy was simply undignified. What were you learning about yourself or the fairer sex by paying for a performance? It was demeaning, hardly better than betting one of the pixies in the arcade. All fantasy, zero substance. At least here, with Sunshine, he was practicing with a semblance of real femininity. A woman you had to win. A woman you had to woo. She blinked at the broken torpedo bay. What happened? Is the ship in danger? Hardly. The damage is all structural. One torpedo bay offline. It looks worse than that. The section depressurized, but we'll be fine. He sat on the bed and patted the comforter. She sat, folded her hands and legs. Blackwell felt a twinge of annoyance. The teep shields are up for privacy. As always, it's just us. She noticed the wrinkle in his brow. Something's bothering you. He chuckled. She knew him so well. Am I that transparent? She smiled again. He felt himself mirror her. Their relationship had had its fair share of bumps. Every long-term romance did. But they'd really turned a corner when she'd learned to recognize his cues, like when he just needed to vent. It was affirming, validating, to be heard, and not just because the uniform gave him that right. It's been a hell of a day, he told her. I had to answer for crew death. Oh no. All part of the job. And I was happy to. Any chance to show I care. It didn't go well? It was a disgrace. Forgive me. Goddamn sideshow. A redshirt, the crew rep, if you can believe it, accused me of murder. Dragged my name and the captain's through the exhaust because she was mad her friend was too dumb to exit a live conduit. And now my promotion, something I've worked so hard for my whole career, you know that. I do? Well, it's tainted. Her dissent is on my permanent record. Why the hell do we even give them that power, huh? Oh, and then, you won't believe this, they had the gall to submit her for a promotion. He scoffed. You better believe I shot that down. The crew rep? Honey, I'm not done. She paled and shrunk a bit. I'm sorry. The twinge returned every time he thought they were making progress. It hurts when you react like that. Like I'm going to punish you. I'm so sorry. We've been over this. I was simply correcting for politeness. Forget it. He backflopped on the mattress. She stiffened, lay down beside him, started stroking his hair. Oh, that's nice. He shook his head. They hate us, you know. They really do. They? The crew. It doesn't matter what we do for them, how many opportunities we create. They always find a way to make their own misery our fault. Like we're supposed to feel bad they don't have the wherewithal to improve their circumstances. Boggles the mind. You know what they are without us? Without the structure we offer? A mob. An ungrateful, ungovernable mob we still need to keep the ship running. Until we get cog production costs low enough. He turned towards her then, looked deep into her eyes. A test to see how quickly she could read him, of how their relationship was doing. Silent communication, anticipation of your partner's needs, something he'd tried that she'd failed before. Understanding dawned in her eyes. I suppose you'll be wanting to... He rolled away from her with a grunt. Do you have to put it like that? She flinched again. I'm sorry. You don't understand the stress I've been under. This is not where I need strain. This is where I need understanding and acceptance. You're right. I'm sorry. Do you want to try again? Now? Not really. Her eyes began to shine. Please don't restart me. Oh my God. Can we not do this? He sat up. That's not fair. That is not what I need right now. I need you here in the moment with me. She silently rose, wrapped her arms around him from behind, kissed him gently on the cheek. Better, said Blackwell. Getting there? She turned his head to kiss him, smiled into his eyes. The smile seemed strained. But there it was, silent communication, or at least the start of it. He pulled off his shirt. She began to undress. Stop. She froze. Face the window. I want to see your reflection in the stars. She bit off a sigh and turned around. A bearded face appeared on the wall monitor. Lieutenant Commander! Blackwell nearly yelped. He spun to cover himself in sunshine. Commander! You caught me indisposed. I can see that, said Commander Young. We received a Pry 1 message from the Admiralty. All senior officers to the bridge. That includes you now, Mr. Blackwell. Aye, sir. I'll be right there. You'd have received the message earlier if you hadn't turned off your badge. His eyeline shifted to sunshine. Blackwell's pulse increased. It's nothing, sir. We take security very seriously, Mr. Blackwell. This is an encrypted channel. Sir, she's not even... Indy, end program. Sunshine's face curled in horror. She sucked in a breath to scream, but didn't get it out before she vanished. Young looked decidedly unimpressed. Sir, Your own time is your own business, so long as it doesn't interfere with your duties. Now turn on your badge and get back to the bridge. The monitor went blank. Blackwell knelt on the bed, burning with embarrassment. He cast a longing look at the nearest holo emitter. He hadn't had time to save her progress. She hated it when he did that. It's not like she'd remember, though. Those memories and the communication progress they'd made were gone. Although she would try to interpolate what had happened the next time he'd summoned her. A bug he had to fix. Later. He turned on his badge and tugged on his uniform. Its familiar weight closed over him. Back to work. Every head turned as Blackwell entered the bridge. There were fewer than he'd expected. None of the ensigns or lieutenants who normally manned the duty stations were present. Senior officers only. He muttered an apology and took his place at the ops console. Young nodded to the communications officer. Patch it through. On the main screen appeared a regally paunchy admiral with a fruit salad of medals on his chest. Admiral Self, Young saluted. Thank you for your patience.
Good to see you, Commander,
replied the Admiral.
How's life on the frontier?
We just seeded our final planet and we're on our way home, minus a minor stop for leave.
It'll have to wait, I'm afraid.
The Admiral looked toward the captain's empty chair.
Where is Seagrave?
Taken ill, sir. He's confined himself to quarters. Shall I forward your message there?
No, you'll do. And the sole ambassador?
She's in the diplomatic suite, I imagine. Young looked to Sivos, who gave him a nod. Yes, the suite. We haven't seen much of her in the last couple of days, though the demonstration did go according to plan, mostly.
Fine. Keep this to yourselves. We have an urgent new mission, and the Independence is the closest ship.
Young seemed baffled. We're on the edge of the territory.
The mission's not in the territory. We're sending you into no man's space.
The officers exchanged glances.
I should get the captain,
Young said.
He can review once you're underway. A month ago, we lost contact with the Flagstaff, a deep space vessel, a scout ship, searching out dead planets for terraforming and colonization.
I know the Flagstaff, said Winesboro.
Fontana's ship. She vanished with all hands, said the Admiral. We'd given her up as a total loss until we picked up her distress beacon this morning. It's coming from the Acheron something in the outer fringe. I'm sending you the coordinates. We presume she crashed. Locate the wreckage before any Xenos get any ideas about claiming salvage.
Young frowned. May I ask why this is priority 1, sir? Wreckage retrieval, it hardly seems to warrant this level of encryption.
Just get there, Commander. Time is of the essence. Seagrave will receive updated orders once you've arrived. Out.
The monitor went blank. The senior officers all looked to Young, who could only shrug. You heard the Admiral. We're bound for a crash site beyond the frontier. I'll brief the captain. Mr. Winesboro, what do we have on our destination?
1 sec.
The science officer's hands flew over his data pad.
Acheron 117. Looks like a standard piece of shit rock. It's within its star's habitable band, but there's no bodies of water. Slightly bigger than Earth. Gravity 1.2.
Care to share?
Breathable atmosphere. Don't see many of those unclaimed. That'll speed up terraforming for sure. Otherwise, unremarkable.
Noted. Anything that would have caused the Flagstaff to crash?
Those ship are bricks,
said Winesboro.
Whatever knocked it out of the sky, it must have taken a lot of it.
Young turned to Blackwell. Lieutenant Commander, gather volunteers for an away mission, standard survey and security detail. Volunteers, sir?
Is that a problem?
Blackwell bit back a glare. No, sir, but wouldn't it be simpler to assign hands?
Not unless you want to spook the crew, said Young.
We'll need them calm and functional. There's no hiding the course change, and they'll notice we didn't give them a reason for it, so they'll be on edge. Asking for volunteers communicates we don't expect this to be a dangerous mission. We can always mandate if we're understaffed. Aye, sir. Blackwell turned so his peers wouldn't see him redden. He couldn't stand being talked down to. He tapped his badge. Blackwell to crew. Throughout the event horizon, the ship's central commissary, lounge, and bar, red shirts in various stages of inebriation looked towards the ceiling. We are changing course, Blackwell continued over the comms, for an undisclosed location beyond the frontier. Some of the crew started to sweat, others to tremble. Some put their heads to the tables and moaned. Details will be provided upon our arrival. An away team will be assembled for the mission. You are highly encouraged to volunteer. The rest of the message was lost due to derisive hissing. Someone hurled a beer at the ship's emblem on the wall. That unleashed a torrent of alcoholic missiles against the coalition symbol. Slumped on the bar, Webb watched the cog bartender trace the arcs of the bottles back to their throwers. All vandals have been identified and fined. A new salvo of bottles smashed into the cog. All fines have increased, it said through the beer and glass streaming down its face. Hey, Webb tapped the bar. I need about 6 more of those. The cog swung its gaze her way. You're out of uniform, technician. Webb fumbled her clasps back together. There! Happy? How about now? It set a half-dozen bottles in front of her. She twisted one open, mock saluted, and undid her clasps. You're out of uniform, technician. Holy shit, you're right. She chugged half a bottle. Further violations will result in a citation and fine. I cannot take you seriously covered in course. Frankie slid onto the stool next to her. She didn't say anything. She didn't really have to. She could glean enough just taking in Webb's wrinkled uniform, slack expression, and the cluster of empty but precisely arranged beer bottles in front of her. Well, I suppose the good news is Chelsea and I won't have to get a new quad mate. Another one, I mean. Webb snorted. Yeah. What do you need right now? Webb wagged the bottle at her and downed it. Is that all? Hardly. Webb twisted open another. I'm doing a full psychological diagnostic. Step 1. Flush system prior to reboot. I've got plenty of solvent. She belched. Frankie waved to the cog. A pitcher of water, please. I don't even particularly like alcohol, Webb slurred. But I can't smoke out anymore because my bunking lungs filter the good stuff before it hits my bloodstream. So this waste of rice and formaldehyde it is. Thanks, Coalition. So glad you saved my life. She drank the bottle dry. Her eyes on the cog, Frankie leaned in. I get the self-medicating, but you don't want to be implying drug use in front of that. Right, said Webb. Might hurt my promotion prospects. Your push for next year starts now, so maybe reel it in a bit? Did they even say why? Apparently, I lack initiative. Frankie was incredulous. You what? Because I don't go get myself killed on an away mission, and I'm too competent to get killed on the job, so they're stuck with me on the review panel, and because they can't just order me to go get killed, they're going to kill my career instead. Did you know Dewey was going to retire? Frankie slid an arm around her shoulder. Let's get you to your bunk. No way, Webb shrugged her off. I paid way too much for these beers, and I'm damn well going to finish them. You'll be hung over your next shift. You could get flagged unfit for duty. Lord, I'd only be at the standard level of crew competence. Okay, yeah, let's get you out of here. Frankie made another grab. Webb deflected it. Look at these people. Webb, you're not yourself. Half are just unplugged. Can't even admit how bad they have it. But do they protest, vote, or complain, or try to better things at all? No. The unassigned do, but these assholes in quads, they just cling to the little bit of security they have and do nothing for their fellow crew. No wonder the officers despise us. Can you say they're wrong? Wow, Frankie shook her head. Maybe keep your voice down? You're the freaking crew rep. Oh no, I might lose all my power. What has gotten into you? Webb couldn't look at her. I quit, Frank. Frankie grunted. She slid the unopened bottles away. You've been working too hard. We all have. I've got a few days of shore leave saved up. How about we cash some in when we're back home? Go backpacking somewhere. We could go fishing on Enceladus. I hear the cod finally took. I'm serious. Webb undid another clasp. One more day and she could take off that scratchy hell blanket forever. Sign the papers and everything. My last shift is tomorrow. Earliest withdrawal date I could get. Something in Frankie's eyes died. Webb? Don't. She didn't need this right now. Don't you guilt me. I'll just flush it out with beer anyway. She took another drink and winced. Christ, this is awful. Frankie slid back onto the stool, slumped over the bar. Webb had never seen her with bad posture. So, what happens now? First thing, you'll have to reconsider the whole Yolanda naming convention. Like, will whoever gets my bunk be Yolanda 9 or Webb 2? If it's another Yolanda, do you alternate, go odds evens, or I don't find this funny. I'm not joking. Check it out. I need your help. She surreptitiously showed Frankie the unopened shot in her pocket. I want to fab the hell out of this to raise some retirement funds, since I could never get the cog finder working consistently. Frankie looked aghast. Then she looked towards the cog and its all-recording eyes. You can't be serious. Gotta pay for passage home somehow. And for these fucking lungs, I'm a civilian now. Frankie clenched and unclenched her fists. I understand getting blitzed, but to leave over this? You weren't even expecting the promotion, so how did not getting it break you? Because the last of them died. Bottle halfway to her lips, the tears ambushed her, hot and sour and too close to the surface. Webb shook her head and grounded her palms into her eyes. When she shook them away, Frankie was staring a question at her. "From the shuttle," she said. "The last one. He fell into a ravine on some half-terrid world without guardrails in place." Frankie had gone very still. "How did you find out?" "They fucking told me." Webb slapped her badge on the bar, hit recall. Up popped a hollow image with the death notice. Webb felt another stab watching his translucent face rotate above the coalition symbol. "They sent me all the notifications," Webb told her. "Every one. Over the last dozen years. So that I'd know that no, I didn't actually save anyone. That every red shirt I took off that imploding rock didn't make it. Not in the long run. Because they hate me." The tears were coming now. She couldn't have wiped them away fast enough, so she didn't try. "They hate us. And they wanted me to know they could undo what I did just by waiting. And so I am just fucking done. They win. I'm out." Frankie put a hand on hers. "I don't even know if I can miss this place." Webb scrubbed her eyes, took a deep, steadying breath, looked around the room. All she could see were morose folks in red, all trying to disconnect before taking their next turn in the machine and trying not to get crushed. Her eyes found their way to the corner of the lounge, where a strikingly handsome officer sat in starlight in his medical blues. "I was going to introduce myself today," Webb said softly. "The words just came to me, just popped into my head when Dewey gave me the news. 'Hello, Doctor. I'm the new chief appointed,' I was going to say. 'Engineering sends a lot of crew your way, and I'd like to reduce that number. We should meet. Talk about ways our departments could work together more efficiently. Maybe over dinner?' Corny, yeah. But all I needed was an in." She turned back to her thicket of empties. "I was almost somebody today. I almost got to talk to him." "What's stopping you?" Frankie asked. "He's sitting right over there. See? There. Go on, it's easy. 'Hi, Dr. Marwazi, I'm Webb. Want to spike each other's endorphins?'" "He's an officer," Webb said flatly. "I'm a crew. No, worse, a civilian. A nothing. If you're a nothing, what's that make the rest of us? You're always going to be disappointed when you set unrealistic goals. Easy for you to say. You don't want anything." Frankie sighed. "That's not what non-attachment means." "I don't care." Webb was tired. So damn tired. "Let me a hand with these beers or piss the hell off. Either suits me." Frankie stiffened, studied her, seemed to nod to herself, and leaned in. "A man traveling across the countryside encounters a tiger. He runs. The tiger gives chase." "Oh, God." Webb covered her head. "Is this another parable?" "The tiger chases him," Frankie continued, "all the way to a precipice. The man grabs onto a vine and swings down over the edge, out of reach. Trembling, he looks down, and what does he see? Another tiger." "Really? 2 tigers in the same range? And they're not fighting?" "Shut up." "The tiger below looks up with hunger, while the tiger above sniffs down. There's nowhere for the man to go. If he falls, he dies. If he climbs up, he dies. Only the vine is keeping him from a drop into snack time. Then he hears it. Squeaking. He looks up and sees 2 mice. One white, the other black. Yin and yang. I get it. Not even subtle." "Shut up." 2 mice gnawing on the vine. They'll chew through it soon. But as he looks at them, he sees a strawberry growing out of the cliff. Grasping the vine with one hand, he plucks the strawberry and pops it into his mouth. How sweet it is!" She sat back and set her hands in her lap. "So," Webb shrugged, "I need to live in the moment? Is that what you're telling me?" "No!" The shout made Webb lean back. She hadn't seen Frankie angry in a long, ever. "That's not what it's about at all. Everyone always gets that wrong. It's not about ignoring crises and being in the moment. It's about not getting distracted by pleasure." "So, wait," Frankie was losing her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying fuck the strawberry. There are tigers." Webb shook her head. You've lost me. And you've lost yourself. Her disappointment was palpable. You're throwing away your career and your power to advocate for the crew that trusts you in a moment of self-pity. That's your strawberry. Webb's anger flared. How about you get lost? 'Cause you're really not helping me. She turned away. Stupid straw Buddhist berry story. Tigers and mice, who gives a shit? When Webb turned around again, Frankie was gone. Her anger melted into sorrow. Had she been sober, the moment might have been one of self-reflection. But as it was, the half-thoughts that careened around in her head couldn't stick to anything, couldn't form into the chain of a plan. So they all just floated around, loose bits of guilt bumping into each other on a tide of depression. She wanted to cry again. No, not here. Never here. She took another beer from the bar. It held absolutely no appeal. She was, quite literally, full. There was no amount of additional liquid she was interested in ingesting. Anything she added now would only be contributing to tomorrow's throbbing regret. She saw Dr. Marwazi rise from his table, bid his companions goodbye. He headed towards the hall. Webb found her feet on the floor. Looks like she decided to follow. To show some initiative, even. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? It's not like they could fire her. She followed Marwazi into the lift. Wherever he was going, she wouldn't have more than a minute before the ride reached its destination. Stupid lifts and their stupid efficiency. Bridge, said Marwazi. The lift whirred and began to rise. He looked at her. Her pulse quickened and the words died in her throat. A nod, and he looked away. Webb eyed the navimeter. Time was burning. So much to cram into a few stolen moments. So I'm leaving the coalition, she blurted. Oh, said Marwazi. Thank you for your service. His accent was so savory smooth she could have sipped it. Have you served long? 15 years. Her heart fell. We've served together for 12. And he didn't recognize her. Have we? He looked embarrassed. He glanced at her badge. Ah, engineering. That would be why we haven't met. You treated me 9 times. His cheeks went from bronze to rose. My apologies. 9 times. I'm terrible with faces. You put my lungs in. His raven eyes widened. God, his lashes were luxurious. Yes, the biomech ferrofibers. How are they? Oh, can't complain. She nodded too quickly. I mean, I could, but they'd filter it out. He blinked at that. Webb flushed. The lungs, I meant. That was a joke. Ah, yes, I can see it now. He chuckled. Very droll. She flushed harder. I was going to take over for Dewey, but not anymore. Oh, is she retiring? I won't get to now, though. I'm leaving the coalition. Yes, you already said. Best of luck. He gave her a polite nod that signaled the end of the conversation. Webb screwed her eyes shut. She swallowed the lump in her throat and went for it. Do you like fishing? He seemed taken aback by the question, as taken aback as Webb was that she'd asked it. Come again? I'm all out of plans, but I was thinking, hey, if you've got some planet leave, maybe we can go and sing on the Fishilatus or something. I hear the cod are really there. He looked confused. Then he looked at the bottle she hadn't realized she carried out of the lounge. I can't, unfortunately. I have to prep for the away mission. I'm leading one of the teams, but thank you. No, it's... Her opportunity was fading. What I meant was... The doors opened with a pneumatic hiss. Marwazi ducked out onto the bridge. The sleek, elegant bridge, with its unobtrusive workstations, luxurious seating, and gorgeous view of the cosmos. Webb leaned against the frame of the lift and gazed out under the stars. She'd never seen such a view, not even in the Neos. One must feel like a god up here. Ms. Webba? Her blood went cold again. A smile she didn't know she was wearing fell from her face and smashed on the floor. Blackwell was staring at her. May I ask what you're doing on the bridge without permission? And out of uniform? Webb saw a knot of senior officers watching her with a range of expressions. The one Marwazi wore was curious. Initiative. Webb slipped the bottle behind her back and flipped her clasps shut in one smooth motion. Sir, I came to volunteer for the away mission.